Last summer, some friends and I drove the 500-mile route round the Highlands of Scotland, known as the North Coast 500. We had a great time seeing what is truly a beautiful part of the world. Now, I know that there's plenty of content out there showing this route, and as this film will clearly show, there are much more qualified people out there to give you advice.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
So this series is mainly just to give our experience. What worked for us, what didn't,
Thumbs up, everybody.
and most importantly, the laughs we had along the way. Right from the off, things didn't go exactly to plan, as our hour-and-a-half flight somehow turned into an 8.5-hour train journey. That meant we missed our chilled start looking round Inverness and looking in detail at the driving ahead. More on that later. But eventually...
We have just arrived at Inverness. The weather is not bonita.
And after a comfortable night in an Airbnb, we picked up our transportation and were ready to begin our journey. But not before loading our cases and essential snacks. All seemed ready for us to head off, without a hitch.
One of the main things to remember was they were struggling to pull out. The reason was that the engine wasn't on.
Turn it on, yeah. It doesn't work.
What was the struggle with switching it on? Was it we didn't have the key in the car?
I needed to have the brake down when I turned the engine on. I just thought it was an impressively quiet car.
Just like, why isn't it moving?
Eventually, Matt reminded me of basic car operations, and we hit the road. Slightly later than planned, we followed our sat-nav up the east coast, heading for our first stop-off, the Mermaid of the North, on our way to Dunrobin Castle. But we quite quickly regretted not checking the route.
We're approaching what was very much not a crossing.
Oh, is this when we got stuck on the...
Yeah,
the
Me and Matt
ferry?
were in the front. I do remember seeing the road carrying on, and I was kind of looking at the map and looking at the bay, and just like going, "Where is this road? Is it flooded?" Bridges.
Thinking that the sat-nav had factored in there was bodies of water.
Funny, that's to the ferry. I feel like it visibly sank every time a car drove onto it.
It did
To
look
the fact that it had a 2-car capacity and there was a queue of about like 10 cars and it came every hour.
Yeah.
Some very quick maths realised that was not going to work.
It's expensive, wasn't it? Wasn't
It
it like
was.
£7 a person or something?
plus the car as well, yeah.
The Kia is a person, to be fair.
But very nice cafe.
Yeah,
Very
nice.
lovely.
Okay.
Well, you need a
Nice.
good cafe if you're going to be there for hours.
Yeah, I can go around me.
So after a much-needed coffee, we hurried to get back on track. But soon, we started to see views that gave our trip a new mantra.
Oh wow, look at that. That's awesome.
Whoa. Every detour's an opportunity.
It really is.
Say it back to me, Christian.
Every detour is an opportunity. That was so weird. It just like. Oh.
There we are.
That? We were literally under a cloud.
That is Scotland.
I've never seen that before, but it's just one cloud.
Unsure of what that small patch of road had done to earn the wrath of the Scottish weather, we pressed on. Further up the coastline, passing through various small villages on our way to visit the Mermaid of the North.
It was a fun detour opportunity.
Yeah, this was our first sight of the North Coast, wasn't it? I'm not sure we know why the Mermaid is even there, do we?
It was nice.
What's it called? Mermaid of the...
Mermaid of the North, yeah.
It's a bit late now.
It's quite an impressive name.
And it's not that big. It's not like the Angel of the North, which has got more gravitas than that dolphin.
And gravity,
Absolutely.
because
Mermaid
it's
of the
big.
North.
I mean, it's pretty much what it says on the tin, isn't it? It's a mermaid.
It's a mermaid. It's near the beach.
So after a refreshing stop off, we said goodbye to the Mermaid and continued our journey to Dunrobin Castle. Owned by the Duke of Sutherland and being the longest lived-in castle in the country, Dunrobin was a great cultural stop-off before heading into the wilder parts of the North Coast. Making the most of the good weather, we decided to first look round the gardens. Whilst not the most high-octane activity, we loved exploring all the secrets of the beautiful grounds. And as the weather turned, we headed inside the castle itself. With its impressive architecture and well-preserved historic displays, we spent a great hour soaking up the stories and atmosphere.
More significant was the acquisition of two very delightful stuffed cows.
Highland cows.
Highland coo! One of whom was named Lewis Cowpaldy, and one of whom was named...
Calvin Haggis.
And they joined us on all of our adventures and popped up in unexpected places.
And before we left, there was just enough time for a bit of falconry from the unforgettable Andy.
Quite a mean-to guy. He did love always to get everyone at the end or start
He
of
was
every
very
sentence.
enthusiastic.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Andy. I'm the first bird to fly this afternoon, everyone. The name is Juanita, and Juanita is a hawk, everyone. Juanita being a hawk has a different physique to the falcon we're going to fly next, everyone.
It was essentially his version of in a sentence was just everyone.
Everyone, or anyone. He loved his indefinite pronouns.
I had to dissociate once he started talking about rabbits being disemboweled.
There was also the great moment where he goes, and just to help us demonstrate, we've got little Emma here. We're all just like, what's he going to do to Emma?
I actually thought that he was really good.
He was.
I mean, to be honest, I don't think I'll ever forget him.
No.
So what was his name? Alan?
No.
Andy.
He said never forget.
Any questions, anyone?
Back on the road, and well into the afternoon, we headed to our first stop of the day, the Whaligoe Steps. After spending most of our day in more built-up areas, we were excited for our first stop seeing the more natural beauty of the Highlands.
Beautiful.
We learned a lot about this crank.
We did.
did learn a lot.
So after going up these steps, Christian got correct verb is accosted probably.
Yeah.
By a man who their family had actually fished from those steps.
I mean, he was a really nice guy. He'd set the whole place up by himself, which is really impressive.
He built the Whaligoe steps.
Well, no,
the family maintained the steps.
Yeah, all the signs, all the tourist stuff he'd done all himself, and it was because his ancestors had worked there. But he had a whole presentation planned.
Showed you a really good visual aid of what the steps used to look like.
That was cool.
How that crank was used. It was really cool.
And what was the
supported.
crank?
On the
Listen to
boats,
Davey.
I think it was.
Yeah, it was getting there were little
fish.
boats that came in and out. That it was winching them onto the bay, and also whale carcasses so that they could cut it up for blubber and stuff. Which is how Whaligoe steps got its name. Whaligoe is whale.
I didn't even know that.
In some language.
In some language. Probably Gaelic.
Probably.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But education aside, we also had a great time exploring.
Yeah. Go on, Cloudy, you got this. You're giving mountain goat vibes at the moment. I love it.
The steps overlook a beautiful, if slightly slippy bay, and there were some great rock formations to climb and watch the choppy North Sea. And after the guys climbed down to join me, we began the 365-step climb back to the car for the last leg of the day's drive. Our accommodation for the night was a glamping site near Caithness, in a picturesque setting with plenty of facilities, including a barbecue hut. This was definitely one of the more luxurious stays of the trip.
Glamping.
That was so
Good.
I was really excited about that.
It was so nice in there.
After a quick stop for supplies in the nearby town of Wick, we unpacked and settled for the evening.
Yeah.
Morning.
The barbecue was not well planned.
It was fun.
But it was a lovely vibe. So with the barbecue, we all sat around facing each other cooking.
Yeah.
Felt almost primeval.
Yeah, we should have cooked everything in the oven first and then brought it in to finish it off on the barbecue. But
Which is what we eventually did. But
yeah, we just threw stuff on the barbecue because we were hungry and thought we'd figure it out later.
Heat plus food equals dinner.
It was really nice, to be fair.
We
There was
eventually
only one
got
sausage.
there and
Yeah.
it was just so bad to begin with. Well, that's not great.
Inspired by Elle's positivity, we tucked into the first batch.
We're laying down our lives, so if we die, everybody knows not to eat anymore.
That'll be too late by then.
Oh. Matt given up, just in a wet t-shirt.
Well, I don't know. This might be the last footage of you two alive, so...
That's true. Tell my mother I loved her, and Robin, and fuck it, my sister claimed my map, but there you are.
But then, once we utilised the oven, and the girls' common sense, we ended up with a tasty feast, topped off with a marshmallow dessert. But before bed, there was just enough time for another surprise from the Scottish weather.
Yes, so I went to go call my girlfriend and wandered off, I thought, out of earshot of the general crowd. So I disappeared down the road that seemed to never end. Then I think you guys perhaps thought I was dead and I wasn't quite sure how to get back home.
well, we thought you were dead, but you hadn't come back in like 20 minutes of torrential rain. He either really wants to speak to Robin on his own, or,
Enough of us
or
already.
something's happened.
This is not ideal.
Thankfully, though, Matt returned undrowned, and our first day ended with a glorious sunset.